The Shep Naz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shep Naz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. And today we have with us Pastor Brett. It is Thursday, December 11th, and we're continuing our Advent series from the season of Advent. It's our multicultural daily readings from the South Central Ohio District of the Church of the Nazarene. And pretty excited about the idea that they decided to put this all together. As the title or the subtitle might kind of indicate, this is actually published in multiple languages. And I guess a little factoid is that these are all languages that are actually represented in our district.
Very cool, yeah.
So like people might be flipping through this book and like, why do we, we live in Central Ohio. Why do we have all this? The reality is, in South Central Ohio District, we do have a lot of different peoples that are represented, and so that's one of the reasons why we wouldn't make it available in this format.
Right.
So, Pastor Brett, how's things been going?
Pretty good. I love the Advent season, Joe. I'm kind of a festive guy, and I love this time of excitement and anticipation, and Christmas is right around the corner, and things are going well, man. How about you?
Things are well. I was thinking back to when Susan and I were first married, putting myself in your spot, and remembering what a kind of rat race it was on Christmas Day, because you're in that time of transition. Like, I'm still connected to my immediate family's Christmas traditions, and people don't want to necessarily transition out of those, and you're in that phase. So when Susan and I were first married, it was like you got up really early and we went to her dad's house for a little bit and did the thing that they need to do, and then went to my parents' house and we did the thing that they need to do for a little while, and then ended up spending some time there, and then in the evening going to an aunt's house that we always go to. And there came a point in our life, it was after like the third child, after Caleb was born, we're like, okay, now here we're setting up camp right here at our house.
Yeah.
We will put food out on the table for breakfast. We will feed you for lunch. We're here all day long.
Right.
You guys can start coming here if you want. But I suspect you're still in that transition time right now.
Yeah. So I have one sister that goes to church here, and we're kind of in that spot where she and her husband have a child, and my parents and Emma and I kind of go to their house because they're the one with the grandchild. It's kind of like our grandparents, like you said, used to come to our house when we were kids, and now our parents are the grandparents. But we're definitely very lucky and blessed, really, that both of us, our families are really close by. So things can be, there's some space for flexibility on holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff. But still trying to figure things out for sure. You're spot on there, Joe.
There's a lot of that going on. And now I'm entering into the next phase, which is now it might not be at my house all the time. Now it might be, and I'm cool with that, really.
Yeah.
I'm flexible, whatever. I suspect that my wife will still have to supply food to wherever we go, but I'm cool with it. I like it. All right, so bring us in for Thursday, December 11th devotional.
All right, here we go. So our Bible story that this devotional centers around is the story of Ruth in the book of Ruth, and really it focuses in on the first chapter and follows Ruth and Naomi. So let me start with our Bible verse, and then we'll go into our devotional. So Ruth 1:6 says, "When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there." And here's our devotional. Naomi was a prodigal daughter. She left Bethlehem during a time of famine, searching for plenty in the land of Moab. She left full, her husband and 2 sons by her side. She returned empty, a childless widow with only a Moabite daughter-in-law accompanying her. Her life had become dark with grief and loss, her hope for the future dim. But there was food in Bethlehem, and laws that provided for poor widows. There was a light, however small, at the end of the tunnel. So Naomi went home. Much like the prodigal son of Jesus' parable, she expected little from her homecoming. And just like the overjoyed father, the Lord had abundant provision waiting for her. By the end of the book of Ruth, Naomi ended up with a grandson who became the ancestor of Jesus himself. Have you been living away from home? Have you lost the only family you've known, squandered your inheritance, given up hope for the future? The season of Advent meets you in your darkness and invites you to look forward. There is a light on the horizon, and slowly but surely, it is growing brighter. Your journey may not look anything like you expected, but know this: God is providing for your people, and it is time to come home.
Nice.
There we go. So, just a couple of things that I noticed from this devotional for today. One passage or line of words that really stuck out to me was in commenting on Naomi. She returned empty. Her life had become dark with grief and loss. And now, this Advent season right now, we're in a week where we're remembering peace, but joy is on the horizon here, and that's definitely felt throughout the season. And then reading this devotional here is kind of like, it speaks to the darkness that some folks feel during this season. But as with every message that is shared in the church, there is good news. Yes. And I do love the use of light in this devotional as saying that it's on the horizon and it's growing brighter. And that's something that is felt deeply in the season of Advent. And I like how the author Judy says here, but there was a light. There's always a but at the end of these stories, or rather as a bridge to the good thing that God is doing here. So during this week where we focus on the theme of peace in Advent, the story of Ruth and really of Naomi in this devotional points us to the shalom, the restful peace God offered in his son. And in God's infinite beauty, this poetic story reveals the light in Naomi's darkness coming from Bethlehem. And I think that is so cool. One of the reasons I like this devotional for today is the story of Ruth has always been a personal favorite of mine. And I think that the parallel is just so beautiful, because indeed it would be God's restorative work that would occur in her life there. And again, later down the family line of Ruth as Christ was born there in Bethlehem. So I really love that about this devotional.
I have a deep personal connection to a passage in Ruth. Now, it was a moment at which Ruth was making a commitment to Naomi, and basically, when entreat me not to leave you, and Susan and I ended up taking that passage and using that as part of our wedding vows.
Oh, that's cool.
So I can't think of that story without having that personal connection. But one of the things that stuck out to me, and we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, it was like, okay, so is Naomi really a prodigal? How does that fit for the definition? But it did make me start thinking about the prodigal son story. And one of the phrases that was in here really kind of popped off the page to me when it says, have you lost the only family you've ever known, squandered your inheritance, or given up hope for the future? And I thought about the squandered your inheritance. And when we look at the story in the New Testament, the story of the prodigal son that Jesus was sharing as kind of a parable to help people understand the grace of God, in that story, the prodigal son had said, hey, give me my inheritance now. And then he went off and spent it all, and it was gone. And he had come to that low point that she's actually referring to here, where thinking there's no hope for the future. There's not, like I've already wasted everything that God was ever going to give me. And now, as he returns home, he has no expectation of actually getting any of that back. His expectation is, look, even the people that you treat the worst at your place get treated better than where I've been. Yeah. So let me just be one of them. Mm-hmm. And what he finds out is that he's taken right back as a son. Right. And what that speaks to me is that when we think of an inheritance being squandered, we think in human terms. Maybe we amass assets and wealth and things like that we can try to pass on down to the next generation. And that's where we think of as our inheritance. And if we hand over everything that we've ever accumulated and then they waste it, well, then there's nothing left. But that's only true if you have limited resources, because we serve a God that there is no limit. He doesn't run out.
Yeah.
His grace is renewed every morning. His love never fails. His patience never ends with us. Like, he will always take back the prodigal son that's seeking him. And so the idea that somehow we could use up everything that God could possibly get to us is really kind of a small view of how much God can really do for us.
Yeah. I think of the verse that says God is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. There was a book that I read a while back that talked about, in the evangelical church of today, the question of where God's anger or God's wrath comes from and how to even understand that. But in the context of that passage, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, as if to say that God's default is love to us, and he's patient in giving that to us. And I think that's something that's just so reassuring. And the message that we're talking about this week is the message of peace in Christ as the one that brings peace and as the one that makes peace among us. And part of that is through his death and resurrection, but it all begins in this story here in the Christ child that comes and brings peace on earth. And yeah, great devotional for today. Great story. I love it. Thank you for your insight, Joe.
Nice. Well, I will leave it there for today. And we encourage you guys that as you're hearing these devotionals, obviously we want you to consume these, but we would love if it would just not stay with you, but if you would share it with others, not because we're trying to build a brand here, but because we're equipping you with being able to share the good news with others. Just as Pastor Brett said, it's always great that we have good news to share. You can check out everything that's going on at the church by going to shepnaz.org. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Pastor Brett, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.